everyone, and welcome. We are your fearless digital learning ambassadors for Millville Public Schools, and I stress the word fearless because it takes a no-fear attitude to do this job. We are discussing today how to increase engagement with our Google Meet sessions, and we're going to do this even if your students' cameras are off. I know that's been a point of contention with some of us, and I'm just going to say I'm firmly in the camp that students do not always need to have their camera on at all times during my meet.
Okay, so if you're an MPS staff member, please go to the link and sign in, either or scan this QR code with your phone or tablet. We're also going to post the link in the chat, and this link is only active during this session. So sign in sometime over the next half hour.
Today we're talking about engagement, and we obviously cannot see you in the audience, but we trust that you're there. So we also want to encourage you to engage. So feel free to use the chat to ask and answer questions, share ideas, and more, or use the Jamboard link, which I'll be sharing momentarily, and we'll share it right in the chat. And if you want to come back to it throughout this whole time, and make sure you sign in the next 30 minutes, obviously. But for now, feel free to add your questions, comments, whatever into the chat, or into the Jamboard, which I'll be sharing right now. I lied, 1 second. I'll be sharing it in one moment. Here we go. Happy. All right, I'm pasting it right into the chat. This is the Jamboard. On the first frame, if you would like to add something, you're more than welcome to by either clicking on one of these sticky notes and typing a little message and adding it there. I don't think any of you are on an iPad, but if you are, you can of course use the pen too. Oops, meant to erase that. Or if you wanted to add a picture, it's up to you. I mean, just post your questions here and just the first frame if you want to, just as a way to engage. But you're also more than welcome to use the YouTube chat as well. So let's head back. When we think about online engagement during our live lessons, there are a few things that we do know to be true. Accepting these truths and like being intentional about what we do as remote or hybrid teachers is really vital to our success with this interesting way we're delivering instruction. So number one, participation doesn't always look like this, kind of like we're doing right now. Some of you are participating in the chat, so I can tell that you are actively part of this, but I cannot see you staring at the screen, and that has to be okay. We can't control what students do in their own homes. So just like adults, kids are going to take bathroom breaks. Kids are going to eat. I mean, I pretty much eat all day. It's bad. Control also doesn't equal engagement. So there may be times guest stars make appearances, like little siblings or pets. It doesn't have to necessarily be a bad thing. We also don't have to talk the whole time. There may be times that we are not presenting and we're just kind of working together. I mean, just this morning, the kids had a work session with my period 3, and they just wanted to be on Google Meet. They wanted to work together. I still don't know why, but I did it. We are actively competing for attention right now. So on top of the just cell phones that kids can use to text, on top of the TV, on top of the distractions of the ability to get up and do whatever you want, we also have the distraction of other tabs as well. So we are actively competing for the kids' attention. While we can transfer some of the things from our traditional classrooms, this is obviously not the same. And in so many ways, it's absolutely terrifying, but it can be a good thing. And we can bring some of our lessons learned here back into your traditional brick and mortar schools once we eventually get there. So while so much of this is out of our hands, something that is within our hands is what we do and how we act. So, and some of these things don't even include advanced tech skills. or anything really extreme. So for example, one of the easy things you can do to increase engagement, and it shows there's been studies that say like people who teach online, because teaching online is not new. For us, it's new because we've never done it before, but for a lot of people, it's just part of their life. They've been doing it for a long time. But being able to look at the camera and speak conversationally obviously matters more than just like reading a script. There's just more of a connection there. So hand gestures, anything like that. I actually was talking to a teacher in another district who said she puts a picture of like her child up on the webcam. So like it helps her remind like to look at the camera, because you know how sometimes when you're in a Google Meet or something, like you're so drawn to like looking at yourself, like, does my hair always look like that? Like it's so natural, I feel like, for all of us to fixate on it, but you don't have to. Use the kids' names. Obviously, make sure you're saying them correctly, but if the kid is participating in the chat, you don't have to chat back. You can say it out loud to make it more personal. We still have to actively build relationships, even though it looks really weird. I know Laura did a really great session this summer on like SEL with remote learning, and she talked about relationship building. Something that I've been doing, and I know a lot of the other teachers I've talked to have, is like, I'll keep a Google Doc open and I truly just put each kid's name. And then like, as I'm presenting, like maybe I'll see one of them wearing like a Yankees jersey. I'll jot down like, oh, Justin likes the Yankees. And then I might bring it up a couple days later. Like, hey, did you see the Yankees game last night? And like, I feel like little connections like that, when I am able to connect with them individually, I feel like it almost makes them want to come back and want to engage more, because we have a personal relationship now, not just the sports stuff, because I don't really know much about sports stuff, but like there was a little, not a little girl, she's older, she's middle school, but I watched this, and I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but I feel like I have to. There's a really great Rubik's Cube documentary on Netflix. And like this one girl was playing with the Rubik's Cube, like what somebody might have perceived as being distracted. Like she was watching me playing with the Rubik's Cube. So like, instead of ignoring that, like I decided to talk about this Rubik's Cube documentary. And so she watched it and like emailed me on a Saturday, and we talked about it. And like, it just, now I feel like she always keeps her camera on now, because she wants me to see, like, see, I have 3 Rubik's Cubes now. Like, it's this weird bond that we created over Rubik's Cubes. So be reliable and available. Obviously, it's really great to like put boundaries in place and say like, I will email you back during working hours. But if you are, let's say you have an hour-long class and you're only going to present for 10 minutes at the beginning, 10 minutes in the middle, and then they're doing activities, be there. Like if somebody comes back into the meet and is like, hey, I need help with this, like, of course it's going to be helpful if you're there. Like that reliability is valued. Evaluate content and delivery. So considering things like the suggested screen time for the age group that you work with, or the attention spans of students, like that's really important when we're delivering content, and evaluating things like standards and curriculum, and like what is the most important thing, because obviously this is not the same as being together in person. And then I think most importantly, just like being open to learning new things. Like one thing I don't do intentionally, but it always tends to happen to me, whether I'm like presenting a workshop or presenting with students, I always make mistakes because I'm not a perfect person. And I feel like when I make the mistake, I always like, I'll quickly point it out, and then I'll learn and do better next time. And I think that's such an important thing for us to show, instead of getting frustrated. And I know it's very easy to get frustrated with things like the technology, but I think instead of blaming everything else and everyone else for a situation that none of us can help, it's really helpful if we kind of adopt this like team approach. And I don't believe in like toxic positivity, but I love the idea of saying, oh man, I don't know why my mic's not working, and like moving forward from there instead of letting that ruin any potential moving forward. Actually, a teacher next door was having sound problems today, and she like knocked on my window and was like, can you come in here? So she was having sound problems, but they had never done like hand gestures before. And I think Laura's going to mention this later, but she randomly decided like, okay, I need to have you give me a thumbs up. Like, and she was communicating with them still, even though she couldn't hear anything. So I feel like being adaptable and open to learning is going to be really vital as we move forward. So with that being said, we're going to show you guys some stuff, I think. All right, go ahead.
All right, so I'm going to start off. So like Alicia was saying, Having students use hand signals to interact is a really great tool to use all those nonverbal cues. Any of you have little ones at home? I know that that's how my son started, just learning how to talk. He would do the more, all done, all those sorts of things. So you can totally adapt it. And even I think it's really special when you kind of do things that are tailor-made to your classroom. So your class could have like a secret hand signal, and they kind of get a kick out of that. Another thing would be like having them switch all their cameras off and playing Never Have I Ever, and switch your camera on if you have, I don't know, gone trick-or-treating in the last year, anything. And then there's a couple different tech tools that you can use also to get kids to communicate non-verbally. So the first one I want to show you guys is the Nod extension. Just like any Google Chrome extension, it's available for our students, it's available for us. So if it's something you want to use in your classroom, you can do a Screencastify video to show your students how to install it. And this is what it's going to look like. So I am sharing my screen, right? Okay, perfect. All right, so this is a Meet I have up. Nobody else is in the Meet, but your Nod extensions come up right up here. And it allows your students, even with their cameras off, to applaud you because you do such an amazing job at everything you do. So look, I'm applauding myself right now. Or maybe if I have a question, they can use the hand raising tool. And that's even good if their cameras are on, because sometimes it's hard for you to see all your students trying to get your attention when you're on a full class Meet. The other thing I wanted to show you while I have my screen shared is this great website, Classtools.net. And it has a million different things, but one of the most important things it has is you can do the random name picker, and kids will get such a kick out of the random name picker. And even if you just use it they can pick out the, Go Noodle of the day, anything like that. So those are just a few of the tools that I wanted to share with you.
I love that you mentioned like they can pick out the Go Noodle of the day, because something I've been hearing people talk about is like reassigning like job responsibilities. So they'll say like one person's job is to moderate the chat. Like instead of having a line leader, like you have somebody who's looking for comments that for specific subject areas. I thought that was pretty cool.
All right, I think I'm up. Hi, it's so funny you mentioned Classtools. I just had to smile when I saw that random name picker because I've used that for my clubs. When we would pick what we were watching for the day, I had a wheel, and it's real. I know for a fact it's very easy to use and very easy, and kids love it. The wheel spins. It's exciting. We get excited when we see wheel spin. So I think that's great. I can give that a thumbs up, definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can use the chat feature in your Meet, and how you can also just really quickly throw in a Meet link to have a little side chat with a student. What we call at the high school, maybe like a hallway conversation, that kind of thing, or just a pull aside, anything like that. So let me go ahead and share. And we're going to have that inception moment again. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so you'll notice I have several Meet tabs up here, which is a good point for me to make because I've had people ask, yes, you can be in multiple Meets at once. And if you were able to come to our training on how to do breakout rooms with Meet, that's kind of the way that we approach it. So we're kind of talking about the same thing here. So this is a class Meet that I have with a fake class of mine, and I have my fake student in here with me. And you'll notice that right now I have the chat function turned off for students so that I am the only one that is able to post in the chat right now. The students do not have that option. And I can show you that right here because this is my fake student. He's seeing what I'm putting in there, but the student can't actually do anything. So what you can do when you're in a Meet, if you're doing something like a lecture or you're presenting your screen and you really want them to pay attention, not get distracted in the chat, you can go ahead and turn the chat off and just make sure that they're paying attention to you. But once you're in the Meet, at any time, you'll notice that under chat, I could toggle it here. You can also just look under people and open up host controls. And here's where you can control the chat, whether or not kids can share their screen, things like that. So you can get to it either way. So what you might want to do is, for example, once you're done presenting and you're ready to really have your kids interact with you and talk to you, you can toggle the chat back on very easily, and you can ask them, okay, chat's back on, guys, go ahead and, give me your questions. I have a question for you, put your answers in the chat, stuff like that. So it's very simple to turn it on and off at any time. So it's not a one and done thing. But one thing I will say is that once maybe they're working independently or you're doing something else, you could even have the chat off and still throw in something like a side Meet link. So all I did basically was go to the Google Meet webpage. I made a whole new Meet just in another tab. I just called it side chat and I copied the meeting info and I pasted it right in the chat. And here's where you'll want to say, hey, I made up a student named John. I said, hey, John, why don't you just jump ahead or jump in this side Meet with me? We'll just have like a quick little chat, just the two of us while everybody else is working. And just like you, a student could be in 2 different Meets at once. So we'll just pop it into another tab. You guys could be in that side chat. And then once you're done, you close that Meet, you hop back into your class. Simple as that. So I think this is something that would be useful at any grade level. If you're a class that has something like a co-teacher or a paraprofessional helping you and they want to pull somebody aside into a side chat like that, it's very simple to do. Any staff member can create a Meet link. So you could have your class in one, have a chat in the second one. So I think the chat feature is something, especially since we can turn it off now, that's going to be very, very useful for this.
You're muted. I love saying that.
My favorite. It was my favorite. And that happened today. And you mentioned before you can make mistakes. So I was going over a fantastically worded lesson today, and one of my 6th graders said, I heard the chat come through, Mr. Dodge, you're muted. So I had to go. They saw what I was doing, but they couldn't hear anything. So I'm going to, or I hope Alicia's going to share my screen. There we go. So this is sort of how I engage to start my meeting. This is what the students see at the beginning of the chat. And I was going to go through and show you some of the other. I keep all these in one slide deck because I use them for these tools all the time. I just call the slide deck greeting slides. So I also have a good morning, and then I have the same thing for my good afternoon greeting. I also have, when it's independent work time, this is my independent work slide. So students know exactly what they need to do. And like Alicia said, I do stay present for the entire hour. I'm, of course, multitasking as they're working, but they can come back in, they see this list, or they can ask me a question. But another way I engage is using Goguardian. So, and we're going to talk more about Goguardian Friday, correct? Friday. And we're get in depth about Goguardian. But one of the things you can do in Goguardian is force your shared screen over top of anything your student is working on. This is grades 3 through 8. So one of the things when they're all working, a lot of the times I don't need them to come back and check in to leave, but I will let them know, hey, it's time for your next class. So I sort of force this visual onto them. Also, if I'm in my meeting talking and I notice there are kids who are not responding to my chat or not responding to any verbal command or cue, I sort of force the next slide on them in Goguardian just to ask, hey, are you there? Anybody around? And that goes on top of everything that they're doing. So they sort of jump at attention and I can see their screen, so they jump back into the Meet. So that's one way. They're just quick, simple things that I have in my arsenal. They're always there. I use the same things. The kids actually get used to them. One of my students actually asked for the goodbye slide, if I was going to use the goodbye slide, because they wanted to make sure their mom saw it. And then asked me if I could hold on to it a little longer this time so she could make sure her mom could see it. So all these little things that we're doing I think make a difference. And I think there's one more thing I wanted to share. Let's see if I can switch my tab.
Justin, I have to say, like you and Ashley talking about, you're the reasons that I started using the YouTube countdown clocks that I talked about in EdTech Tuesday yesterday. Because like today, for example, I decided to have a work session. Like there was 2 activities that were due today, and like I was waiting on so many kids to like submit them. And so I had a work session where like I have some kids who join, they're always early, but there might be 1 or 2 stragglers. And sometimes if you like give the instructions right away, you have to repeat them several times. I usually record it and have it available, but something that I did do was like put that slide up and say, here's what you should be working on. It's like the whole class, I just had that up with a checklist, and I had like a countdown clock with like relaxing piano music requested by one of the kids. We share the same kid. And yeah, and I just thought it was cool. And like if they needed help, of course, in the chat, they'd be like, are you there? And like then I would chime in or something. But you guys are the ones who got me really into like having slides to like greet. I used to just greet them with a conversation, which I thought was great, but it was so nice to be able to get them all on the same page throughout the class too.
Here's another, this is a Google Doc that we use for note taking. One of the things we panicked about as a language arts department, at least at Lakeside, was how in the world are we going to get our students to read our novels and take notes? So one of the things I used before pandemic hit was were collaborative documents or Google Docs. So this particular one is one we're working on right now, that the students, I share my screen and the students have their own copy of this. And so today I taught them how to take notes and let them go to finish these notes. And tomorrow we're going to compare the notes, their notes with my notes as a finished product. So that's one way they can sort of go bounce back and forth between the 2 tabs, seeing my notes, seeing their notes. So sharing your screen with Google Docs that they're actually working on is a great way to also increase their engagement.
Cool. And I've seen people also do like, they'll share like one blank document and say like, use this to take notes during the week. So like a teacher, if Laura has her screen off, I might look at Laura's doc that we shared, I have access to, and I can see that she's typing during class, like she is there. And I love checking like timestamps. If you're really curious about participation, I think that's a good idea. I guess this brings me to me. So let me also share my screen. So something that I actually have done a few times is just, in case you didn't know that little shortcut, I'm sharing right, yeah. I just typed form.new to quickly make a new form. Most of the time I really do, I feel like even though we should be having shorter amount of class time, the prep time, you all know, is extreme. So usually I am very prepared, but sometimes I'll need something real quick. So if I wanted to open up like a new Google Doc, I can go to doc.new or slides.new or sheet.new, or I just did form.new. That's why it came up so quickly. I think there's this misconception that if we're using a Google form, we have to have questions put in. You actually don't have to. So like if you are wondering like if your students are paying attention, you could have just an ongoing doc. And like, let's say I was gonna ask them doing a quick check to make sure they're there. I'm of course drawing a blank to different subject areas. What was the main character's motivation? Or actually, I lied. Question. I might just call it a question, and I could easily drop this form into the chat on my Google Meet and say, all right, my question for you now is, what was the main character's motivation? Have the kids respond. A couple days later, I might ask a different question and quickly drop the meet up there. The link up there to the form. When you get your form responses, you can view them in a sheet. So I can see what class they answered. So that's a really easy way to check and make sure you've still got the engagement. And of course, if I'm not sharing my screen, the kids aren't going to see it. So they're not going to know who's answering or whatever. And I feel like it's a very simple way to get some quick feedback. Of course, I love Jamboard. You know, I talk about Jamboard a lot. And I tried to get you guys on Jamboard right away, but it looks like Nicole's here. Hey, Nicole. So that's one person. I'll put the link up one more time in case you're interested. But something cool about well, there's a lot of cool things about Jamboard. But if you use Jamboard, you can see who's adding things. Like, do you see? You probably can't see. It's very tiny, but I see Nicole's little picture here, or I could see her initials. If you do it from your Millville account and you make it so only Millville people can do it, you'll be able to still see. You won't see it 2 hours from now. Only while they're actively doing it, you'll see the participation. But whenever I want people to edit it, I go to share, and then I can just change it so that anyone, usually I do MPS if I'm working with kids. In this case, I did public. I'll post the link in the chat one more time in case anybody wants to join. And I did put an example of this. It's like probably a corny example, but it's one of my favorite things I've been doing. So I gave you 2 frames right now. The frames are up here. The first frame was just questions. The second was something I'll talk about in a moment. Kids can add a quick sticky note and type something, or they can click on this little image icon and search for a picture. So maybe I ask the kids, what is your favorite mammal? Maybe they can come here and find their favorite mammal. And you could separate them, obviously, and do whatever you have to do. You can also actually drag and drop GIFs on here. So one of the things that I've been doing, and it was in EdTech Tuesday, but we can play a quick round of it now. So if you're not in Jamboard, get in Jamboard because we're going to have some fun. Well, it's probably not fun to you. To me, it's a lot of fun. So something that I've been doing, and if you're interested, you can go to EdTech Tuesday yesterday, is we play this game. I'm going to go forward to the second frame. It's called Bop or Not. And like I have the slides already set up. I showed you guys. And what I'll do is I'll come to like YouTube. I put it on the slide. It's all set up. I don't want to take your time with this. So you make sure you, if you're interested, do it separately. But like I'll play a song that like typically is not a song the kids would know. And I'll play it, or I'll be blocked from it. And what I'll do is I'll ask them, like, is it a bop or is it not? And like the kids, if it's a bop, means it's a song that is cool. It's playing right now. The sound's going to be weird because I'm not on Google Meet. I'm on the StreamYard. And then the kids will either like grab a sticky note and say, love it. Usually they say, no, this is lame, but add like an image. Or for some of the kids, they've been adding GIFs. So they'll open a new tab and they'll do a quick little search for like a dancing GIF, for example. And they'll pick a GIF. And you can do this on any of the different Google apps. They click and hold it down, then drag it to the tab you want to put it on, and then bring it down and let go. So it sounds like something so corny, but I have to say, I started doing it at the beginning of class because it got everybody there on time. Also, some parents are participating, so that was an unexpected bonus, but it's a fun game. We're playing a couple times a week. Usually they send me requests, and it's just a quick little way to get them to participate, to give them some feedback. And then, of course, it ended up teaching them how to use this tool and how to do a lot of other features with the Google apps that I needed them to know, but of course, in a fun way. I also wanted to talk about Edpuzzle because grades 6 through 12 have access to premium Edpuzzle, but I'm going to show you some. You can get free Edpuzzle. Free Edpuzzle is wonderful. That's what I've been using for 8 years. But with either one, free or premium, you have the ability to do a live Edpuzzle session. So like here's Edpuzzle right here. Let's say that I worked on this activity, and if you're interested, we've done Edpuzzle trainings. You can go to our website, tinyurl.com/MPS digital. So look at some of those recordings, or you could just go to Edpuzzle. They've got great PD, or even just a YouTube search. Tons of people do like tutorials that are interesting as well. But when I open up this assignment, I can go to assign, as if I'm going to assign it to my class. I'll do my sample class so I don't bore anybody. And then these are the students in my sample class. And then all I do is when I go live, I click start, I'm projecting this to everybody else. And then as we go through and they answer the questions, I'll be able to see how many people answered. And at the end, I will get all that feedback just like a regular ed puzzle, but we can do it together. So if you are one of the people who's actively teaching live, this could be a really cool feature that you're able to do it at the same time, see who's participating, see who's answering, all live, which is very beneficial as well. So, oh man, time flies. I also wanted to bring it back to what Justin was saying a little bit ago. Goguardian, I think, is really great. And I know we have it in grades 3 through 8. If you're interested, we are doing, I believe it's a 2 o'clock chat. It was an EdTech Tuesday yesterday, September 29th, and we're doing a 2 o'clock chat Friday to talk about different things you can do with that. Listen, don't quote me on this. I hope nobody's watching that is a decision maker, but pretty sure we're getting it for upper grade levels too. I think they're exploring it, but like I don't want to commit to that. With that being said, we are now over the time that I said we'd be taking. Does anybody else want to add anything else about engagement with remote learning, hybrid? No, well, go ahead.
If you're talking to us,
Meg, you, yeah.
We people of the tiles.
Yes.
The tile community. The only thing I want to add real quick, because I don't want to hold people up, is when you're talking about Jamboard, I discovered for those of us at the high school that have the new Prometheans, Jamboard works very well with the Prometheans if you're looking for a way to use your board while also maybe in a meet with your virtual or your cohort that's at home, however this may look. You can be up at your Promethean with the Jamboard open on your Chromebox on the Promethean and be using your pen tools and stuff and writing in the Jamboard and have your kids still engaging with it from their end. So that's a great use for it. So that's another point for Jamboard.
Awesome. I love that.
Just want to mention
really
that real
beneficial. And then I don't think I mentioned this, but I'm the type of person, I zone out all the time in like face-to-face meetings. So this is really hard for me, like to be on these meetings and to do like, it's hard. So I can imagine what it's like for a lot of the kids. Obviously, I'm not going to use the word grace because we're giving everybody grace and whatever, but something that would really help me if I was a student right now, and as an adult, it kind of helps me, is like when you're in Google Meet, instead of just recording like a 1 hour lecture, like record the important stuff. Like you can start and stop recordings like for just 3 to 5 minutes at a time and then attach them separately. It would really help, I think, to organize information. Just a little hot tip, not really engagement, but like survival. All right, well, I have to thank my friends, Meg, Justin, Laura. Thank you guys for helping out. As always, if anybody needs anything, you can reach out to us or any of the other ambassadors. Our website is tinyurl.com/MPS Digital. We're not doing a webinar next week because next week is in-service day. You'll be getting more information about that Friday or Monday from Dr. Moore. And have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us. Bye, everyone.